In this video, we're going to be installing the Osprey POS Point of Sale web client. This is a different installation from prior versions of Osprey Point of Sale, which were non-web client based and required the actual OpenEdge installed. If you're installing the point of sale on a machine other than the server, you won't have OpenEdge installed anymore. The single installation will handle all of that, and then updates will be pulled down from the server, which is again another of the advantages to this. Our first step is to add an entry to the host file. You can do that however you so choose. On this machine, for demo purposes, this has already been done. As you can see, I have the Osprey back office web client on here. So if you need instructions on that, you can refer to your operating system reference, or you can watch the Osprey back office web client video and see how I accomplish this. So in my case, I'm ready to run the Osprey POS Point of Sale version 11.7.100 installer. I'm going to right click on it and choose to run as administrator. This will bring up our installer splash screen. At this point, I'm going to click Next. I'm going to read my license agreement, accept it, and then click Next. Now, as always with a point of sale installation, we have to define a register. I'm going to go ahead and use register 1. And then I'm going to hit install. This is going to start copying files, which include the program logic, the actual Progress web client installation, the actual point of sale application installation, as well as third-party runtimes that we need. As with the back office web client, this single installer does install everything we need. So once this installation is complete, it's going to launch the Progress web client installation, in this case 32-bit. So if you have both back office web client and point of sale web client, you'll actually have two separate web client installations, a 32-bit for POS and a 64-bit for back office. Additionally, it will go ahead and install the point of sale web client app for the initial installation. Going forward, it will connect to the actual Osprey POS server and check for updates and pull them down from there. Okay, next it's going to install our OPOS common control objects, just like prior versions of POS. These common control objects are distributed in the OPOS folder within the ORS point of sale folder in case you need to rerun them, which potentially may be after you've installed third-party OPOS such as Epson, IBM NCR, etc. Next, it's going to install the DSI PDCX client and the DSI EMV US client, which are handled the out-of-scope credit and EMV authorization softwares. Now we're going to install the Progress 32-bit web client. Next, we're going to install the actual point of sale software. So you'll see the typical web client installer that says you're about to install an application. So I will choose yes. It will go ahead and install the point of sale application at this point. Now it's going to create not one, but two shortcuts. Let me go ahead and click on Finish to finish this installation and let it perform its configuration tasks. As I said, it created two icons. Our traditional Osprey point of sale icon, which will be used to start point of sale, and an Osprey point of sale sync icon. Two notes on this. The first one being that icon will likely change in the future. This is being done on the initial pre-release of the software. Secondly, the Osprey point of sale sync, which we will get into more information in a separate video, is required to run Osprey point of sale to keep the database in sync with the local copy of the SQLite database. If it is not running automatically by being placed in the startup of the machine, etc., the point of sale app will attempt to launch it. The exception to this is the initial installation. because we actually have to create and sync the database. So in this case, I need to reboot the machine, so I'm going to pause the video and do so, and then we'll get in on how to start the app for the first time. Okay, now that we've rebooted, the first thing we're going to do to run this is we're going to go ahead and start the sync program for the first time. I'm going to choose to right click and run as an administrator. Once I do that, we're going to see an icon pop up down in our system tray. If we click on the arrow there, it will be appearing next to our Windows Defender shield. As you can see, we have a little database icon down here, and you'll see it keeps flashing with arrows here indicating there's activity. For this first install, you're going to want to let it run so it can build the databases. Depending on the size of your actual point of sale databases, this can take as few as a few seconds or as long as several minutes. One way you can monitor what's going on is to go out and look in our databases folder for point of sale, which will be on our C drive and our ORS folder. Underneath point of sale, underneath databases. And you'll see several databases. These are all SQLite databases, which we'll get into more in a separate video. And as you can see, they're building. This QA database is from medium small to medium sized, and depending on the processor and the machine and the memory, will take upwards of a couple minutes to completely build. You should note that this is only for the initial installation. Once the system is up and running, these databases will simply sync instead of having to be completely built, which will take a matter of seconds in general. So you can just start the app up. However, in this initial case, it's recommended to let them completely build first. At this point, we moved on to the item and customer databases, so we're almost finished. If we look down at our database icon now, you'll notice the arrow's gone. It will come and go as it's checking for normal sync activity, but since it's not on, we can go ahead and see that our databases have been built. We can close this out if we so choose, and then we can start point of sale. So I'm going to go ahead and the first time, I'm going to run this as an administrator. And that's going to download our file to check for updates and then launch our application just like any other web client app. And we have our splash screen. And now we get our devices don't exist because in the QA database we're set up for hardware that this demo unit doesn't have. So we're going to click through those. Now it's going to initialize our credit software, just like regular point of sale always has. Now it's loading up the POS keypads, and here you go, we have point of sale. The point of sale look is generally not changed very much. You will notice small subtle changes, but all in all, currently the 11.7.100 build was more about architectural changes. I am going to go ahead and sign in and ring a transaction, so I'll sign in as cashier 1. This is set for 2 cash drawers, so I'll choose cash drawer 1. As you can see, we're defaulting to prompting for customer information and by last name. I'll bypass that as always. Bring up a couple of items. And so on. Go ahead and total this out. This particular database is set up to prompt for roundup donations. I'm going to choose no. Then we have our traditional tender routine. In this case, we rang up an item that's food stampable, so we have a $2 food stamp total. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to go ahead and tender $150 cash. Total out my transaction. This is set to prompt for receipt. No, I don't want one. Transaction complete. So the operation is the same as traditional point of sale. If we go ahead and we bypass here and we go into some of our other functionality, such as item search, You'll see we have our traditional search. I can hit search for all. There are my items. I can ring up items directly from here. This item is set, so we have enter a quantity based on the database configuration, calendar 3. So the point of sale functions basically like it always has. As far as some of the differences, again, there'll be a separate video detailing the differences between the various applications, so please review that one as well. Thanks and have a great day.